because of their effort, in my opinion, is to get nuclear weapons. Okay, so the first thing you got to do is take out their IATs, their integrated air defense systems. In the old days, you just blow stuff up. Now, is it possible to go in with electronic warfare and disable their IATs and their radars using electronic warfare? And furthermore, can you do it without them knowing it? You know, can you switch their radars off? There are a lot of things you can do. For instance, a few years ago, I don't know, maybe it's already 4 or 5 years ago, Israel went into Syria. So this was in the paper a few years ago. Syria was, they were caught with an illegal nuclear weapons plant, although they didn't admit it. Israel went in and they took out that plant. They completely blasted it. And the funny thing is, Syria didn't say a word. So if you follow this stuff, Syria, whenever Israel even blows air over the border, Syria goes crying to the United Nations about how Israel invaded their space or whatever. And here Israel went over the border, blew up a bunch of stuff, and Syria didn't say a thing. Why didn't they say anything? Because they got caught, you know, with an illegal nuclear weapon site. You know what I mean? It would be like, I can't think of a good example. It would be like, but you wouldn't do that. You got caught with your hand in the cookie jar. That's what happened to Syria. But for the point of this story, how did Israel get by there? Right? Because those Syrian radars never went off. Israel didn't disable them, and they didn't fly in too low. So somehow they must have either injected something into those radars that made them blind, or there's something called supply chain. Maybe they got into those radars when they were built 15 years before that, and somehow had some sort of software in there that disabled them at a future date. You know, those are the types of things that happen in EW. Let's briefly talk about cyber. You guys are aware of what. In fact, there was just an article in the paper yesterday, I think, about China really attacking us with cyber. When I say us, I mean not just our defense systems, but our power grids, our banking systems, our businesses, stealing secrets. China is our adversary. It's different than when I was your age and the Soviet Union was our enemy. They were our enemy because not just because we had atomic weapons pointing at each other, but there was no trade or anything like that. We trade with China. We do a lot of stuff with China. So they're our adversary. That's a little different. But they're killing us with cyber attacks. So cyber is a big deal for all of you budding software engineers. There's something called IA and IO, Information Operations, Information Assurance. Think of it as offense and defense. Information assurance is how to keep your stuff, keep them out of your computers. Information operations is offenses, how to get into theirs. Okay, so there's a lot of IA going on with China. For that matter, is anyone here in Iran the Stuxnet virus? Does that ring a bell to anybody? Okay, some people. So Iran, again, the nuclear stuff. So what do? They're trying to get nuclear weapons. So what do? You either have a military assault, and a lot of people don't want to do that. Why start another war? Or you have United Nations sanctions. So I will tell you right now, Mr. Gold is not a fan of United Nations sanctions. You may as well try to teach my cat Trig. They just don't change it, and I don't even have a cat. They just don't. I really dislike cats, by the way, but don't get me started on that. They're so ridiculous, cats. No, I can't. Like they go up to you, right? They can't open a door, right? Because they don't have an opposable thumb. So they come up to you and they gnarzel next to you, and and all that. And then you go open the door for them, and then they walk out and they look back at you with this like sucker you just got used look until they need you again. It's just all right. Anyway, where was I? Oh, okay. So you either have United Nations sanctions, which I think are pretty toothless, or a military assault. But what Stuxnet showed is that you can do something different. Somehow we got a computer virus into the Iranian nuclear facility, and it caused those centrifuges. You need a centrifuge to make weapons-grade uranium. It caused those centrifuges to spin wildly out of control. And furthermore, nobody knew it. Have you ever seen one of those bank heist commercials where you got the guard and he's looking on a closed-circuit TV and there's the vault and it's closed, but really they put in a tape and the heist is going on and he's looking at a tape? Well, that's kind of what Stuxnet did. Not only did it cause those centrifuges to spin wildly out of control and destroy themselves, but the people monitoring the board didn't know it was happening. Everything showed up fine. And we ruined hundreds of millions of dollars worth of their stuff. It sent them back months. It didn't destroy their program, but it set them back months. So that's an example of some cyber stuff for software. So, God, the this time goes by so fast. When is it over 5 till? So I guess I'll say, you know, I got a list of things to chat about, but I do want to take a couple questions. Time really does fly by. So at Raytheon, so I'm essentially a mathematician. We like math people. We like double E's, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, people into physics, software coders. If you're a math guy and you can code, you're in there. If you're a pure mathematician like I've always been and you don't code, you got some issues. So you do want to get some software in there. But we take all types. I will also say, in terms of engineering and engineers and science, that I do a lot of non-science stuff. I'm involved in, like I said, strategy. So I do have an MBA from UCLA Business School. I'm involved in strategy, competitive intelligence. I do a lot of finance sorts of things, which may not seem that fun. I would say the more well-rounded you are as young mathematicians, engineers, the more stuff you can do outside of your science, the better. Let's see, I had a bunch of other stuff I want to talk about, but I guess I'll throw it open to some questions if folks have any. Yeah?
Would you say that most of, like, I guess the video games that are out there today, are they accurate in terms of the technological things that they put in there?
So that's really interesting. I don't like video games at all. They're slightly above cats to me. I really don't. If you go to our place, you'll see books, 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 books. We're a family of readers. I don't like video games, and I think they're a colossal waste of time and brain power. But I have found that a lot of the new intelligence analysts that are coming in and training up to be an Intel analyst, for instance, are gamers. They're gamers. They grew up on video games in terms of playing them and how to program them, and it is helping them do their job, which is essentially, like a lot of that stuff. Now, are the video games realistic? I've never seen one, so I couldn't tell you. The last video game I played was Pong. Right on, Pong, aficionado there. Other questions? I would say that I love it. I'm really fired up going to work every day. There's incredible technology, but I also say this sounds so corny. It really is about people. I work with fantastic people. I love our men and women in uniform. I have great respect for them. I'm a definite people person, treating everyone with respect. Everyone's got value. You have to learn how to really deal with people. There are all different kinds. So we've got our engineers, our finance people think about things in terms of money. So when I deal with them, I have to have a different mindset. The HR people, you got to watch what you say around them. The human resources, you kind of deal with everyone a little differently. Engineers, on the whole, are super cool, but you will meet some engineers that are really stiff and very, let's say, literal. You know what I mean? Sometimes they'll stand this close to you and they don't understand we're not in Shanghai, and this really should be the space between you. You can't joke around sometimes. Like I know one time, I probably shouldn't tell this story. What the hell? So I know one time, I was just finishing my MBA, and it was really hard. That was the hardest of my 3 degrees by far. The undergrad math, the master's was hard because I was also working and kids and everything like that. But it wasn't too brutal, because as a mathematician, you can get a math problem that maybe is like a 6-hour problem. If you're smart, you can crack it in 3. But the MBA, there's just no shortcutting it, right? You get these Harvard business cases that are this thick. You got to read them. You got to crunch the numbers. So anyway, I was dying at the end of my MBA. I was just limping to the finish line. And I was talking to somebody at work, and it was one of these engineer types who's really literal, like you can't kid around with them. And I probably shouldn't say this, but whatever. And so he says, this must be really tough on you, this degree. Are you happy you're almost finished? I said, I'm dying. I was explaining how hard it is. And he said, well, another few weeks it will be over. Maybe you should have a party with like balloons and cake. And I was trying to convey that it's slightly, worthy of more of a celebration. So I shouldn't have said this, but I go balloons and cake. And I'm like, no, I'm kidding. I'm just trying to say that the accomplishment's worthy of a little more than balloons and a cake. He's like, oh, I see. So I will say that I deal with a lot of different types of interesting folks. And as much as I love the technology, I love tough math equations. I love the code. I love our men and women in uniform. But I really like dealing with all the different types of people I deal with. And I would say that that's one of the key things. And so as you get out there, for those of you that are getting into science, great. So you're into your chemistry and you're into all of your science. Make sure, though, that you understand that there are actual real-life people out there that you're interfacing with. Last minute questions, minute or two left. Anything about, yeah? I travel all the time. Some people never travel. I go back and forth to D.C. pretty much every other week. I rack up 120,000 miles a year easily. I'm always hopping between time zones. I just got back from Boston yesterday. I'm going to D.C. Monday. I like traveling. If you don't want to travel, you don't have to. But for me, the action's in D.C. at the Pentagon. That's where the action is for me. So I like going back there a lot. And then, of course, my wife gets my frequent flyer miles and my hotel points. And so when we go on family trips, that's a big deal. Look, it's hard. I'm gone a lot, you know, and it's tough. But we went to family went to Thailand last summer, which was awesome, completely fantastic. You know, pretty much free. So last minute questions. I guess that's your bell. Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, I know math specifically comes easy to a lot of you. Some it comes harder to. My dad was a mathematician. My sister's a mathematician. I'm a mathematician. Runs the blood. I have a daughter that's really good in math. I also have another daughter named Petra. Just kidding. But I will say that that science is where it's at. We've got a shrinking economy right now. Our economy is in the tank. But you know, math, physics, coding. If you are into any kind of science, much better chance of getting a job and having a fun time.
What's some useful majors in college?
I would say computer science and computer engineering, math, but only if you code. If you're a pure mathematician, it's going to be. I love math, as you can tell. It's going to be a little trickier to get a job. So I would say math, if you can code, computer science and engineering. I'm a big fan of double E, electrical engineering. Mechanical engineering is big too. Civil engineers I don't deal a lot with. You know, chemistry is a big deal. I'm not to sing because but chem is a big deal. Any sort of bio with chem right now around MIT, around that area, the biotech companies rule. If you have your chem down and you can do math and you can do some coding, not necessarily in C, but like MATLAB and you can do modeling, you're golden. I would say any of those are absolutely solid majors and you know a good ticket to a good job these days. So, hey, thank you guys very much for coming on.